Hello, everyone. Welcome to our best ever conference takeaway live with Rise Capital Investments. Let's just jump right into it. We just attended one of the biggest real estate commercial events of the year and met so many great people and just really got a pulse for the market and how we can help our investors kind of mitigate their risks. So we're going to be talking about that today. But before we do, let me introduce my partner Raquel, and she can talk about one of the latest deals that we have going on right now.
Yes, thank you, Zasha. I want to just present this opportunity that we have in our fund and make sure that everyone is aware of a little bit of the details. And you can reach out to us if you want some more details or if you're interested in this deal. So it is a debt, so private lending investment in Texas. It is a self-storage property. It has 218 units, and it starts with some baked in equity because it is a really low loan to value. So it's a 60% loan to value loan, and it is a short term loan. It's 6-month term, and a really high yield for the property. So about 10 to 12% depending on your investment. So make sure to reach out to us. You won't want to miss this one. It is a quick close, and we just want to make sure that you you have the opportunity to invest, because a lot of these deals get sent out and they close really quickly. And so some of our investors are like, well, why didn't I hear about this deal? What happened? These debt deals tend to close really quick. So reach out to us soon so we can get you the information that you need.
Do you have the flyer that you can share for that one?
We will be posting about that in just a little bit. So we'll you can reach out to us on LinkedIn, or if you have our email, send us an email.
Thank you. Well, like she mentioned, do not miss out on it because a lot of our last debt deal ended up closing before we let it out to our entire list. Our preferred investor list got first dibs. So thank you for sharing on that. And with that, what was your kind of biggest takeaway from attending the conference? What do you think is important for other people to know? And maybe some insight about connecting and networking with other people that are investing into these bigger deals.
Yes, my biggest takeaway is when I meet someone in person, I'm really able to have some dialogue in our conversations and get to know them a little bit better than just seeing someone on social media. And so when I'm able to dive into their background and what they're doing and what they're interested in, it really gives me an opportunity to get to know them better and build more trust with them. And then have memories and create memories with people to where we can translate those into, more of a relationship down the road. So I really love connecting with people, especially um, joining the conferences, but also going to the other events, like the other networking events before the actual conference or after the conference. And we did our own event that we'll talk a little bit more about as well, which is super informal, and so you have a lot more time to dive into conversations and ask more questions and really get to know people. So that is my key takeaway from the best ever conference.
Lais, she was one of the main, supports as far as connecting with investors on the phone and really starting to form those relationships. What did you think about the networking event that we hosted on our own afterwards? I thought that there was a lot of value in that as far as building more personal connections with people and getting their trust. And if you are looking into investing in other people's deals, getting that one-on-one time is super important, especially when you meet in person.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree 1000%. And our networking event really turned around great. We got to, meet in person some of our investors and just peers, and we just got to, exchange a lot of information. Best Ever as a whole is a great event, right? It just helps us keep up to speed and up to date with what's going on in the market. So having that one-on-one connection, especially on an event such as, the one that we were able to throw together, is just great because we really get to share, just a little bit more detail about what we're doing and understand a little bit more about what the other people are doing, and just collaborate. So I personally was able to find some great, people there, and we're still connecting. I have another call next week with one of them, and we'll see how we're going to help each other. So yeah, it was a great event. Lots of people came. We were able to get that room filled up. So thanks to the team for getting that done, and it was a great time.
What was some of the, I guess, main questions that investors had for you, or that, topics of conversation that you had in those one-to-one kind of more personal, intimate conversations?
Yes, and I think it depends on the type of investors too, right? So it's funny, and not even the type of investors. So when I was approached and when I was exchanging with some active investors, it was just a very quick, what do you do? This is what I do. Here are the numbers, right? And the people that are more on the active side, they actually want to get to know me as a person, right? Because they want to actually vet the person that they could potentially be investing with. So, does that person have the best interest at heart for my capital, right? So I felt that the connections were a little bit different depending on the type of investor I was talking to. So, like I said, the more active ones, it was more in regards of, hey, this is what we do. We have a customizable fund where we lend capital, and we also invest in equity. And with the more passive investors, it was more on understanding the background of the team and how long we've known each other, how long we've been doing deals together, and what is our top priority, right? So alongside also the numbers, because everyone seemed interested in that, and that's a big part of things. But yeah, that was the two key takeaways I could have from my
And I
interaction.
think it's really important for people to make that connection, but then also kind of build that trust with you once you
Correct.
meet, over the phone, because we've hopped on many
Yes.
phone calls, but just to build that in-person connection, to a deeper connection with them, so that they can.
Huge difference.
Yes. Okay.
Huge difference.
Perfect. Harmony, I know for us, we were on the volunteer side of the conference. This is our first time volunteering, and got to see a lot of the back end. Maybe talk to us a little bit about that experience, and then also what other insight you were able to get because you're part of kind of the putting together the event.
It was number one, you got to give them credit. Like, that's a huge event, a lot of effort, a lot of hands on deck. It's just, I got to give them kudos because I've done large events and it takes a lot to get a team to be able to be that efficient, and they were on it. All in all, if they run it, they have a pretty smooth system going, so it makes it a little bit easier for our volunteers to come in and know what you got to do really quick and easy. So being able to be where we were at registration, and then on the side doors, little bouncer over there guarding the doors. It was fun because it's like I had a table without having a table because people were coming by, and then I just started talking to them. And so I like that part. It was definitely a great way to meet people that you would have maybe have never met, because everybody's going in and out of doors. And in my case, I got to talk to them and tell them, you can't go in that door, but what do you do? So takeaways from it, it's definitely, one of the best, biggest events of the year. It was great to be able to see so many people we meet virtually all the time from around the US, and to be able to connect with them. So For me, I think it was a huge win to be able to see those people face to face. Even our own within the coaching that we do, and meeting our coach in person, which we've met before, but to be able to see that group of individuals we see all the time online, to see them in person, that's always fun.
I agree. And it's not only, especially for us, because we're looking for other people to invest in our deals. It's good for us to also connect with other people that are doing what we do so we can see, like I mentioned before, just what's working for them, get some insight into the markets that they're investing in, what they're seeing, and how they're able to, pivot, especially in this environment. Maybe Emma, you can talk a little bit about that as well, because I know you're seasoned in this space, and also have a lot of investors and connections that have been doing this for a while.
So the tone of this conference was more subdued, just because I feel like the last 18 months in commercial real estate has been really challenging, which is one of the reasons that we are offering debt deals, because we haven't loved what we're seeing in the commercial real estate space, and we want to help our investors keep their money moving. And so I did notice a lot of people talking about not only some of the issues that they've been having on their properties the last year, but also what they're doing to recover from that. And so I found it really interesting from a risk management standpoint that people are being so open with problems that they're having, and also open with opportunities that they're having to overcome those. So the thing that I heard was, if I'm going to be caught on the downside of this, I better be caught on the upside of it as well. So there are opportunities that I might be creating for other investors with properties of mine that are struggling, but I'm also being able to capitalize on opportunities. And so it's just much more collaborative, because there's less competition, and there's more like, hey, I have a deal that's struggling, can you help me out? Or you have a deal that's struggling, can I help you out? And so that spirit of managing risk by increasing your network was the most fascinating part to me about what was going on, and just the transparency and the honesty that I saw from a lot of people talking about their successes, but also their struggles. Online, sometimes it gets to the point where you feel like it's just a lot of happy, everything's wonderful, we're throwing a party every day. But in person, you get deep and you get real. And we were really able to take away a lot from people who were sharing their struggles with us, and basically teaching us what they had learned. And then we're learning without having to make those same mistakes, and also sharing some of our successes and failures. It's just so much more deep and transparent when you're in person.
Well, and I think that's important, like you mentioned, to have that the network of people that are open-minded and are really know what's going on in today's market, but then also can give you insight to maybe what could potentially happen in the future. Troy, I don't know if you want to step in and talk a little bit about just the connections that you made there, and kind of what other investors are kind of seeing the market, where it's going. Troy?
He's got to unmute. Our IT guys having technical difficulties.
We can't hear you, Troy.
You need to unmute.
We should have an office award. Who's most likely to stay double muted?
We almost made it all the way through.
Emma, take me off the stage.
You good? Oh, there you
I think somebody forgot to tell him it was a live event.
Right.
Well, it is funny though, because
Troy is Emma's husband, and he was also at the event. And I think it's important to realize too that you can have another half who has a different strength than you, come to these events as well. And for me, more recently, I have not been, bringing my family or companion, my husband, I don't know why I say companion, to events. He hasn't really been interested, but more recently he has been, because I've been more so educating him and teaching him about what the real estate has brought to our lives as far as passive income. And so the more that he sees it, the more he wants to get involved So maybe Emma, you can talk about that as well. You know, bringing Troy in, who is more so on the technical side, but also having him out there networking as well.
Yeah, one of the things that has been really nice about having your partner get more into your business are the in-person networking events. So we used to make jokes when he'd be sitting there just eating the chips and salsa while the rest of us were talking about real estate. And then the next time we'd go out to an event, I would walk up to him and he'd be chatting away and he knew terms, he knew what was going on. I was like, oh, you're paying attention, not just eating chips and salsa. And so he was able to pick up a lot by overhearing and participating in the conversations. And it did help to increase the level of confidence and support that he had in the business that I was doing. So when it came time for him to make a career shift, he didn't have a whole lot he needed to do to get up to speed with what was going on inside the business. And it also has been really nice, even before he was part of the business, just having him at those events, because he makes a great wingman. And we make jokes about it, but we learned this from some friends of ours who were in sales, where they would bring a friend to a conference when they were selling something, and that friend would go out and talk up that person and be like, oh yeah, well, you need to meet my friend or my sister or my cousin or whatever, she sells whatever. And so they were queuing up people to go. So he said, I can do that for you at these real estate events. So he would go over, find people who had like interests, and then I was able to be walking through an event and have people call out my name and be like, hey, your husband said I need to meet you, or your husband said we need to talk about blank. And so having a companion there, whether it's your husband, a spouse, or just a friend there to queue people up and to be talking you up, because it's a lot easier to talk up somebody else than it is to talk up yourself. And so he's really great about that. And it has eased a lot of the networking awkwardness at events when he's there with me.
Maybe Harmony, you can share about that too, because that's how I felt the last best ever conference that I went to. I kept, once I gained people's interest, I'm like, here, go talk to Chris, even though, he's my partner in the business, not my husband. But it was easier to kind of hand it off, like you mentioned, to someone that I knew maybe if they had more questions about the underwriting or the numbers in the deal, he would be able to dive deeper into that. And that's the beauty too of these partnerships, right? Is that you each kind of bring something to the table. And so, especially when you go to these bigger events, someone like, Raquel may connect with someone that I hadn't talked to yet, or they could have a conversation that maybe about her background that I can't relate to. So it's very interesting, just the dynamics of people, but also to realize that these events, especially best ever conference, I don't know if you guys consistently go to conferences, but there is some that are very like with suit and tie. You have to, be very professional. And for best ever, I feel like you can just be yourself, right? And have other connections with people that are very genuine and not just surface level. So Raquel, maybe talk to us about a conversation that you had that was a little bit, deeper on that deeper level, or that someone that you talked to that you felt like you could be more of yourself with.
Yeah. Well, first off, I want to say that there was times where you'd look in the rooms and there wasn't very many people and watching the speakers, because everyone was just out networking the whole time. And we were kind of joking around saying that they should just make this a networking event. And even though the education is great, the networking is really where it shines. And to one gentleman that I was having a conversation with, I was, trying to get to know him and trying to get to know, why he's here. And he's like, I just want to make friends. Like, I want to be friends with people, because like, that's where his investing starts, is like, I want to create memories with people. I want to share this life with people. And I don't really invest with people until I get to know them on a personal friendship level. And so that really resonated with me, because I find that we often create partnerships and friendships, and like vice versa. We create a friendship first, and then we create partnerships together, or we create partnerships and then friendships. And it tends to go the friendship route first, because it's good to get to know people. And when he said that, I was like, I totally resonate with you. And I mean, he's done tons of investments and done tons of his professional background was just like one thing after the other. He kept telling me about like where he started in his careers and how he grew to be in IT, and then he was in human resources and then training, and like grew to be the, you know, CIO of certain companies. And so he was just saying that like it was all through like getting to know people, getting to know processes, and just continuously growing through the companies that he was in. And just, again, when he said like he just wants to create friendships, like it was such a like a sigh of relief. It's not like I have to try and like, you know, showcase like my best side. It's like I just want to be friends with people too. So that was really, really a great conversation.
Yeah, and I feel like there was a few people as well that were, once I started talking to them, they were actually a little surprised and wanted to know more about the debt side, which that kind of was intriguing, because for us, we know that it's great to diversify, mitigate your risk, but to hear that they're like, oh, I haven't really heard of much people that are doing both debt and equity. That was a great thing for us, because that helped us stand out a little bit more too, to people that were open to it. And even seasoned, you know, active investors wanted to know more about it as well. So I'm glad that we have this storage deal on deck where people can, you know, get a little taste of what it's like to invest in debt. And I think the quicker returns, I think that was one other thing that one of the takeaways was having this like shorter term investment this investment opportunity or like option for people who are maybe like, oh, I don't know if I want to invest like in equity 3 to 5 years, have my money out, but maybe I can invest in this, you know, shorter term deal, see how it goes. So really having that option for people felt helpful. And even for us too. I mean, I think we realized it early on, and me coming from the fix and flip space was always like raising money and having these shorter term turnarounds. So it's nice to be able to provide that to our investors now as well. Emma, what were some of the, I guess, stories that you've heard while you were there about maybe how some people are weathering, you know, the potential storm or the market right now, as far as, you know, the insurance going up, the rising interest rates? What was your kind of takeaway from other investors who maybe are struggling in this environment?
Oh, that's a really good question. There were a lot of different strategies that people were using, and there's no one silver bullet. I think the thing that I got most out of it was it's going to be a collection, multi-pronged approach to be able to just shave off the edges of the downsides so that you can minimize the impact. I always give people the same advice when they're planning for their taxes. Like, there's no one thing you're going to do that's going to save you $1 zillion on taxes. You have to just be doing a lot of smaller approaches. So I talked to people who were having to just raise rents more to accommodate for the higher insurance costs, because those costs get passed down. It may take a while to trickle that direction, but those increased costs for owners and operators will leak down eventually and cause market rents to go higher with part of inflation. They are relieved that inflation seems to be stabilizing. They are relieved that interest rates seem to be stabilizing. Nobody was planning on a cut. Whether we were looking in our crystal ball, people were still underwriting for more rate hikes just to make sure that the deals that they were going into were very conservative and could withstand, because nobody foresaw the rapid rate hikes that we had, and how many there would be so close in a row and how high it would go. It was over and above even the most conservative underwriting that anybody was doing. It was unprecedented historically. And so people were really caught by that. The big buzzword at the conference that people were using was rescue capital. And I've seen some great structures to be able to bring more money into deals in a way that is building opportunities, not only for the investor putting in extra money, but also for the operator who needs the extra money. And so instead of just saying, well, this property is struggling, we're just going to let it fail with those unprecedented rate hikes, if you had adjustable rate debt, then the payment is much higher now than it was at the beginning. And so what I've seen is people coming in and basically coming into receivership on a property bringing in the extra capital, helping them manage the property, get it turned around, and then basically once they're cashed out, handing the property management back over to the operator. And I think that's a great solution because most of these operators who are struggling, it's not because they're bad operators. There are bad operators out there, new guys who got caught with their pants down because they haven't been doing it long enough. But a lot of the people who are struggling are seasoned operators, and the property metrics just didn't work for what was being underwritten. So they do need that injection of capital, but they are perfectly capable of running a clean property if the expenses and the income are somewhat in line. So I really enjoyed hearing about that. I enjoyed some of the creative lawsuits, which is sometimes a negative, but people are being able to settle their differences with insurance companies not paying out on claims, even though we're paying 100% higher premiums. There have been some interesting settlements for people with disputes with their lenders who are saying they should not have foreclosed on me. Some issues where funds were not released on time, and so they're having to go into mediation with the lenders. And so these things are not pleasant to talk about, but at the same time, I did really appreciate the transparency because I didn't really realize, this sounds dumb, I didn't realize that you could sue a lender. I never thought about that before. It's their money, it's their deal. But if there had been some malpractice with the way that the loan was being serviced, that's a recourse there. Again, hopefully I never have to do it. But then there were people who were able to settle and with their disputes and stay out of court. And so the creative ways that they were able to settle their differences was really interesting. Pulling properties out of foreclosure at the last minute by getting a new investor in there. These kinds of things were really interesting to be able to keep properties, if not making the returns that they originally had projected, at least protecting the investment, because preservation of capital is number one in what we do. And so their commitment to preserving investor capital was really inspiring to see.
I love that. I think that was a great takeaway too. And like you said, just collaboration, transparency, but also solutions, right? Because that's what we do is we find solutions and we take on all the a lot of times the worries so that the passive investors don't need to do that. Maybe Chris too, you could talk about kind of the importance of putting yourself out there. I know for us, we got a last minute opportunity to be on stage on the best ever kind of live podcast that they had set up. And so we actually ran into one of our investors that we had been with before, and she got up right on stage with us. So maybe talk about what we kind of covered on stage, and then the importance of, I want to say going with the flow, because I think that's kind of what we do. But as far as just doing things that kind of make you uncomfortable, but have a lot more potential to put yourself out there.
First
Can
point.
I hear him?
Sorry. I have a few points here. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, so a few points here. As Zasha pointed out, I am the numbers introvert, I would say. So definitely getting up on stage is it's different. It's a different, especially if you're an introvert. And I know Zasha dealt with some of this as well. But being able to get on stage and I guess get past your fears is really where you honestly will excel. Like I would say, in fact, we have it on our vision board. Like the first thing we have on our vision board is do the uncomfortable, because the uncomfortable things is what's going to progress you forward. If you do comfortable, you're never growing, you're never learning, you're never experiencing life differently. So doing the uncomfortable, I think, is what everyone should aspire to do and push themselves to get out of their comfort zone and do things different. But it was fun. I mean, just being on stage with you, our investor, going over sharing her experiences and understanding through the eyes of an actual investor what their experiences have been, right, wrong, or indifferent, the good, the bad, the ugly, everything. And it allows us, as well as I guess for our fiduciary responsibilities to our investors, to see what they're thinking of and look at it at a different light, so we can adjust our strategies to make sure, again, we're doing I think I heard Emma mention it earlier, like the number one thing we do is preservation of capital. Like make sure at all costs we're preserving the investments that are coming in. I think the second point, which has nothing really to do with your original question, but I kind of heard the underlying concept, well, from the well, I guess this LinkedIn Live more so is, I don't think it was all necessarily bad. Like you mentioned it, doom and gloom. I talked to a few sponsors that are performing absolutely phenomenal, and I think one of the things, and Emma mentioned this, like risk mitigation is huge. And the way you mitigate risk, and there's a lot of ways to mitigate risk, but one of the ways you mitigate risk is, as somebody said, it, diversification. Like not every single asset class and not every single market as well will perform the same way. And you listen to individuals where their assets are performing versus assets that are not performing, completely different assets in completely different markets. So it's not a one size fit all type of scenario, especially it's the same as the equities market. Well, I mean, one of the things you do in the equities market is diversify. You diversify your investments to different sectors and understanding like the economic ebbs and flows. Everything's had cycles. It's honestly no different within real estate. Everything has its cycle. Every market has its cycle. In fact, there's graphs to tell you where they're at in every single market and where they're at in their cycle. And so kind of just understanding that, talking to other sponsors, I think Zasha mentioned it, like just talking to other sponsors, seeing what's happening in the specific markets that they're working in, it gives us more insight to be able to make decisions that will better our investors.
I agree. Well, thanks, Chris, for sharing all of that knowledge and jumping right on stage with me. But I think that's what it's all about, right? Getting yourself out there, taking action, going to in-person events, conferences, whether you're active or want to be a passive investor. It's a great way to meet people, kind of see what they're doing, see how you can collaborate and make investments with people you can trust. And it all starts with building that rapport, building that relationship. So if you are a little bit, weary or scared even of attending in-person events because you won't know anybody that's there, or maybe, you're an introvert like me and Chris are, we were forced extroverts, but now we know that, there's so much more benefits to sharing what we do and how we do it. And it can improve so many people's lives that, being on the phone is great and meeting people initially is great, but then also meeting live is a whole other experience that we all have done. And so no matter where you are or what you do, if you are interested in investing, in hearing more feedback about attending conferences or partnering, we here at Rise Capital are always open to speaking with you or hopping on a phone call. So, and if you are interested, like we mentioned before, we got a debt deal for you guys to invest in. It's a quick close. It's a shorter time frame, which people enjoy, and we're here to help you grow your wealth. So thank you guys for attending. Any last words, team?
I just wanted to answer this question real quick. Would you say that diversification is investing with more than one trusted sponsor in the same market or more in different markets? All of the above. Diversification is so many more ways than we think about it. It's investing in different types of assets, both paper and real. It's investing in different locations. So that's geographical diversification, sponsor diversification, making sure that you put your money with different teams of people. We just want to be one of them, not the only one. Diversification across your time. So if you are doing an active business or even active investing, like you're a fix and flipper, wholesaler, landlord, you might want to consider putting some of your money to diversify it into more passive investments. So you're diversified across how much time you're spending. So there are so many ways to diversify. It's almost like this buzzword in Wall Street, like nobody even knows what diversification means. It means spreading yourself out, and to the point where you can actually manage those. There is such a thing as too much diversification. I think that was scarcity mindset where you're terrified to ever lose money. You're in this game long enough, you will eventually see some downside. But just being able to diversify it to minimize your risk at the same time being able to manage the portfolio and not being like $5 here and $10 there and everything's a mess. So keeping that in mind and keeping in mind how many different ways there are to diversify is really important when you're planning out your investment strategy.
Can I jump in with one additional comment? Everything you said was absolute gold, Emma. I would say one more thing on the diversification. Well, one thing I meant to mention on the sponsorship side, so the question came up. I would say never invest with somebody you meet for the first time. Like really get to know exactly who they are, what they're doing, and do your homework. The sponsor is like one of the more important portions of the deal. I mean, there's other metrics as well, especially market metrics, as Emma said, but each types of asset will have different inherent risks. So you guys, everyone is going to be on their own investment journey, right? Somebody who's 20 is going to have a definite and different investment journey than somebody who's 70. If somebody who's 70 still wants to invest, completely different outlook on what they want to do based off of life experiences, where they're at with life, and what they want to do. So that question of how you diversify and what you want to diversify in is honestly, it's only a question that really you can answer, because you're going to take on different risks. And one of the things you guys, I think, is important to understand is every different types of asset that you guys take on is going to automatically, regardless of the sponsor, is going to automatically have different inherent risk profiles. So understanding what those risk profiles are, it's no different than the equity market, right? Investing in emerging markets is a lot more risky than investing in Coca-Cola or Johnson & Johnson, or you want to even go safer, you can just go bonds. So it's all different, and they all carry different inherent risk profiles. So understanding that, I think, is important as well.
Okay, well, thanks for coming, everyone. Thanks, Chris, for tapping on to Emma's explanation. But yes, like we mentioned before, we're here for you guys. Go message us if you're interested in investing in this debt deal, or go to partnerwithrise.com to book a call with us. Our calendar is open for you guys, especially because we do not want you to miss out on this deal coming up. So thank you.
Thank you.